Okay, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll give you the injury update here. So limited will be Christian Benford, Dorian Williams, Cam Lewis, and then Micah Hyde as well. And then the following will not practice, Trent Sherfield and Jordan Phillips. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
John, have you figured out what structure yet on the offensive side with QB coach and where Joe will be, all that stuff?
It's unfolding daily. So Shula will be around the quarterbacks a little bit more, and Joe obviously being the coordinator seat.
Shula has a ton of experience. What kind of impact has he had on your staff since he came aboard?
Yeah, he's been a good addition. Like you mentioned, ton of experience. He's been in the head coach's seat before, been an offensive coordinator multiple times, quarterback coach. When I first was introduced to Mike in Carolina, he was our quarterbacks coach and did a nice job with Cam Newton. Well, I mean, I don't think we'll get, the real tell until we get a few weeks into it here, but you go inch by inch, right? And so there can be an impact. Really, the overall energy, it's in the margins in a lot of ways too, right? In terms of energy, culture within a subculture, right? So the subculture within the overall culture of the team, but in this case, an offense has a subculture, and what that looks like and how that can start to foster confidence and energy and the focus on us doing things that we need to do to lead to winning through the process, Monday through Sunday in this case, and now it's Wednesday. So, those are the things that are in the margins that fill the gaps between plays, and I think those are just as important as the plays.
You mentioned energy a couple times yesterday. Is there something specific about Joe that you feel like could bring a different energy to your offense?
Well, I think that's part of it, right? So, it's just a feel, right, more than anything, and an it factor and a presence, and I think Joe has some of that, and then his imprint will develop over the course of time in terms of the X's and O's, and his rapport with Josh as well. So, it starts there and moves forward from there.
Can you describe that relationship maybe a bit more, and then we'll ask Josh about it obviously.
Yeah.
But between Joe and Josh, because it's something you obviously had to consider in making this move, and how receptive has Josh been to this change?
Yeah, he's been receptive, and that connection's important, right? That they are connected, and then in particular now this new role that Joe is in, that they're as connected as ever, because now Joe is the play caller, and that's an important relationship and something that when you're on the same page with total clarity and understanding of what each other want, what you're trying to get out of, just whether it's a game plan or one play, that's huge for that alignment's huge for production.
John, would you say that previously your pre-snap stuff on offense maybe wasn't as diversified as it could have been? Maybe you're creating less problem for a defense because you didn't do more pre-snap?
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think that there's everything in moderation, right? Sometimes you can do too much to where you just want to try and run one play and you're wearing your players out, or doing too much behind the line of scrimmage, pre-snap motion, what have you, shifting. But it's everything in moderation. If you get too static, then it becomes a little bit easier to defend. And sometimes, as an offense, the more you do, it can get in the way. But there's a sweet spot in there too, as well as being too static, and then you allow the defense to do more. A good coach, an older coach who's now retired, once told me, from a defensive standpoint, the more they do, the less we can do, and so I think that applies in this case.
Don't you think part of that is if you're trying in general to go up tempo no huddle versus slow no huddle, but if you're going up tempo no huddle, there's limits. You're going to have a smaller package.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, sometimes it limits the amount of stuff you can do pre-snap. So it's everything in moderation, right?
Sean, you've gone from position coach to a coordinator. Is the biggest challenge going from kind of micro to macro? How is that? Like how your brain works and how you see things?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel strongly about this, that a coordinator position, just like the head coach position, it's a leadership position. You better have the X's and O's because the job really boils down to it's a leadership position, and that's where I mentioned about it being in the margins and all the intangibles that go with developing a culture are important, right? And it starts with the leadership aspect of the job.
Sean, how much change are you looking for Joe to bring schematically to the offense, especially understanding this point in the season, how deep you are and limited maybe the time is for major?
Yeah, I don't want to get in, John. I respect your question, but obviously that's a strategy thing at this point. So I would just tell you overall, his job is to put the players in position, just like my job is.
Outside of Josh, how have you seen the reaction from players so far?
Yeah, they've taken it in stride. I mean, obviously, sad at what had to be or what became of it, but looking forward to a new beginning here and an opportunity to gain more production on a more consistent basis, really.
Sean, can you take us back to when you hired Joe? What appealed to you about him to hire him in the first place a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never met Joe, but just heard good things about him, right? He obviously had sat in different seats along the way, position coach, been around, a good environment from a standpoint of a good head coach and Sean Payton from an offensive standpoint. Back then he was an assistant to an assistant at times, and then the assistant, and then he moved on to LSU where he became the coordinator. And so, that resume, that experience, if you're paying attention, can only benefit someone. And when you talk about some of the traits of everyone talked about how smart he was now and how hard he worked, and I think those two combined can be dangerous in professional sports.
Has there been a decision made on where he'll be during the game? And
No, not that far, Atlanta, no.
I'm curious, what is the benefit from your perspective, what you've seen of calling plays and being down on the field? Like, what do you get from being, I know you have to be down
Yeah.
as a head coach, but in your experience, like, what are the benefits of being on the field versus?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I've done both, and I can tell you what I came up around was on the field. The coordinator, Jim Johnson, I worked with and for, was down on the field, and there's a huge leadership aspect to doing it from down there. I started that way as a coordinator, and then I went upstairs, and at first I was like, it's not the same vibe, right? But if you have people, lieutenants down there that you can trust to get the pulse of the players, to communicate up to you, to me upstairs is the best way to see everything. It's like landing in a plane. You're coming in and you can see things that you didn't think you could see before, and you can see them clearly, and so that's a huge advantage.
Energy and confidence are, we all have our belief in what those two things mean, but how do you go about building energy and confidence when, as what happened on Monday night, you have the confidence, you have the energy, and then all of a sudden there's a turnover and then another turnover. How do you, I guess, go beyond maintaining that energy and confidence when those things happen?
Right, and that they do affect momentum, which affects confidence. We're all human, right? So there is a mental aspect of that, the mental toughness of in this case, a unit, right? And then just the overall, hey, those are things you can't do to win games. But so that has gotten in the way. But that goes back to me to process and making sure we're emphasizing everything we need to emphasize, and then it's going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen, right? And you're going to have close games and good plays and bad plays. And at the end of the day, it's about the mental toughness, the grit, the resiliency of the unit to continue through all of that.
Take two more, please.
Hey, Sean, what has been the key issue for Ed Oliver to be more consistent and at times dominant?
Yeah, I think the word process, I already mentioned that. I think that's huge, right? And then I would say sometimes guys get paid and they go the other way, and it's kind of the relaxation syndrome that sets in. And I know that's sometimes what makes fans irritated with certain situations. But in this case, I think the contract has helped him, and you can ask him why. But his process is as good as it's been. So his preparation is as detailed as it's been, and I think that's important. And you're seeing the result. And I would say for some of those other guys up front as well that may not have performed up to the level that they are this year. Those guys have all improved on their preparation.
Sean, not that you would, get into strategy as you would alluded to earlier, but, I mean, you're very familiar with this Jets defense, what it's capable of, the
Yeah.
trouble it can give you guys and other teams. To make a change like this going into a game like this, how much of a challenge is that against this particular defense? And maybe is there some opportunity there, too, with the unknown that
Yeah, I'm not as, I acknowledge they're a really good defense. Probably the most talented defense in the league. And they do a great job from a coaching end as well. And so they're a tough defense or a tough challenge. I think more than anything, our focus needs to be on us and in particular on offense, but overall as a team as well, and getting us right, and getting us back to playing confident, playing with energy, building like I said, on our offensive side, building a little bit of a culture here, of a subculture of the bigger culture of the team. And I think you saw some of that on Monday night with, hey, we had some turnovers, defense takes the field, and they go to work, right? And they go to work with grit and toughness and resiliency, and they're just staying after it. And so that to me is infectious, and that is important, as well as the X's and the O's. All right, thanks.